What up, what up, what up? What's up, everybody? It is another episode of the Real Spill Sports Podcast. I am your host, Big Nate, joined by my co-host, Coach Taylor. Coach Taylor, what is going on with you?
Another day out in West. Can't complain. Can't complain. The
Can't
Pacific
complain.
Northwest, living life.
As always. Got a good show in store for you today. Some news happening in a few different sports. We are going to start with college basketball, and as of right now, we have conference tournaments going on. I want to say you got Big 10, Big 12, all the conferences, Power 5 conferences going on right now, Coach?
Yeah, they are. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. You got it. Pac-12.
Okay. And you particularly hit me earlier about one team again that is near and dear to my heart that you have a lot more faith in than I do, which is the Iowa Hawkeyes. Go ahead and tell us what you got to say about these damn fucking Iowa Hawkeyes so we can get this shit out the way, because then I'll let you know again how I feel about these motherfuckers.
I think they're a Sweet 16 team, and there's not 15 teams in the country that have a combination of shooting, pace, and a lottery pick. I mean, they've got those three things like no one else does. Keegan Murray is the real deal. He's the best player to put on an Iowa uniform in a long, long time, going back to the late and great Roy Marble. So he's certainly the best since then. And they play at a ridiculous pace. I mean, just a ridiculous pace. It's hard to simulate and hard to keep up with. And they can really shoot the ball. You know what I mean? So I think when you look at that, you look at how they competed in the Big Ten and just how good he is, star power, right? And so the tournament always comes down to star power. He's a legit lottery guy. You know, at this point for him, all he can do is move up in the lottery. They go to the Sweet 16, and now he probably moves inside the top 10. God forbid they win a game in the Sweet 16. Now he could be just right outside the top 5. I mean, he's just going to keep moving up because he's a versatile forward. He's got the length that the NBA covets, and he's got the versatility and the skills that they covet, you know? So enough people are not talking about Iowa, and they should be, Nate. You can tell me how you feel.
Iowa is a frustrating topic for me to speak on because obviously I was raised in Iowa most of my life. So naturally, being raised there, being around it, I've grown up as a Hawkeye fan. Now, there's other teams, I like Illinois because I was born in Illinois. I like Cincinnati because that was a team I liked as a kid. I used to want to play for them. So there are other college basketball teams that I root for. But Iowa is one of those teams. And as somebody who's watched Iowa, especially the basketball team and the football team, I feel like the same thing. They are cool with mediocrity. And they failed to make adjustments, especially under Fran. Now, Fran is a good coach. I am not saying that Fran is not a good coach, but I think when Fran encounters one thing, he doesn't make adjustments. Now, you bring up an interesting conversation because you speak of Murray as the best player to put on a Hawkeye uniform. I think Murray is the most talented player. He's the best NBA prospect. I think when you think of the best player in the organization of that, in the history of that team, Garza is probably the best, but he's the most accomplished. He's the best player. Now, Murray, I would agree, is the best NBA prospect they've had, to my knowledge, ever. I think the last guy that went in the first round that was an Iowa guy was Ricky Davis, and then prior to that, I want to say was AC Earl.
Yeah.
So when you look at it from that aspect, neither one of them went in the lottery. I do believe Keegan is a lock to make the lottery. Now, if he spent 4 years there, would he be the best player in the program? Yeah, probably so. But that he's not going to. So I won't crown him then. I'm gonna be fair and say Marble or Garza. But this team to me lacks athleticism. They lack Bohannon can definitely shoot the ball, and he's a good passer, but he can't break down anybody off the dribble, and I don't think they have anybody that they can break that. They can break anybody down off the dribble. So where I can kind of get with the optimism of some of it. Me being a Hawkeye fan and know what that team has done more often than not. I'm gonna say their ceiling is the second round. If they lost in the first round, it wouldn't surprise me. But I don't think they get out the second round.
Wow. That's very sad to hear from a true Iowa fan. I'm a Michigan State fan, so that people know. And I have more faith in your team than I do mine this year. So to hear you talking like that is just disappointing to me. But
I mean, give me a reason why I should think differently other than what I've had prior. Why? Besides you saying Keegan
Murray. I was never had a player like that. Had a player like that. So that alone, with star power, that alone, I was never had that. So I understand why you feel how you feel on previous teams, and I like Garland. In fact, I love Garland. But Garland's a borderline NBA guy. Borderline.
I agree with that.
His contract is somewhat NBA, somewhat G League. Keegan will never see the G League unless he's rehabbing an injury. He is a bona fide 10-year NBA guy. That alone right there puts you in a different limelight. Period. And if he takes the team to the Sweet 16, you would have to say he's the best player at Iowa because Garza, for all his accomplished he was, never could do that.
I don't think that they're as deep as they were last year either. I think last year's team would beat this team handily. I think if in a time machine I could bring back the Iowa team from last year and then the Iowa team from this year and make this Iowa team go against last year's Iowa team is going to run this team off the floor.
I don't see anybody. I just don't think
because when you say that, I've got Murray to match up against Murray. But on the advantage, you have nobody on this team who could guard Wieskamp. You have nobody on this team that could guard
Tony Perkins,
Garza.
baby. Tony Perkins guarding Wieskamp.
Get out of here.
Hard knock defender. Tony Perkins is guarding Wieskamp.
That's cool. He can't guard Wieskamp.
All right.
He couldn't guard Wieskamp.
The Murray of last year isn't the Murray of this year. Last year's Murray can't guard this year's Murray.
You know it like I know it. You know it like I know it. I've got Murray, and then you're gonna have what Rabacha, whatever his name is, Garza. He gonna tear his ass up. The best bigs in the country couldn't do shit with Garza last year, and you telling me this cat? Huh?
I understand that. I'm not saying he's gonna stop Garza. Garza's still gonna get his 24, 25, and his hustle plays. I respect all that. But last year's Murray isn't this year's Murray. So last year's Murray is going to get torched by this year's Murray for 30.
Okay, so even if you say that, if I've got Garza giving me 25 and I've got Murray getting his 25, okay?
Yes, sir.
Those two cancel each other out. That means I've got Bohannon, but they cancel each other out.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Wieskamp is outperforming Tony Perkins.
You know what? But hang on. Through the game, Fran gonna make the adjustment. He's gonna put Chris Murray on Wieskamp for a little more length. This year's Chris Murray. This year's Chris Murray.
Make adjustments. He don't make them.
Nobody on last year's team guarding Pat McCaffrey this year either.
Pat McCaffrey guarding Pat McCaffrey. Pat McCaffrey ain't doing nothing like that to where you got to worry about him.
Remember though, see, you're forgetting. Last year's team. 4 and 5 against this year's team. You know why? Last year's team had Connor McCaffrey in the start lineup. This year, Fran set his son down. So, yeah, you got to sit down. You're a liability. So, good luck with that because you're playing 4 and 5 every possession on the offensive end.
You also have last year's team. You have Frederick. It was a Fredericks?
Yeah, CJ Ferguson. Yep.
Frederickson. You had Nunge. Yep. I mean,
you did have Nunge.
Yeah, this team would get ran out the gym by last year's team. And last year's team was a second round team that got ran out the gym by a first rounder, Chris Duarte. That's my point. That's my exact point. This year's team is built like that Oregon team. This team is not built like that Oregon team. Not at all.
They're built to get up and down.
That Oregon team had far better athletes than this Iowa team.
I understand that as a Iowa fan, you want to see a little more athleticism from them. I completely understand that. But that's just not the strength of their team. That's just not who they are. And they don't have to be because they got pace, shooting, they got a man named Keegan Murray. When you got those three things, it outweighs the lack of – because think about it. When Iowa had Tyler Cook, they won a Sweet 16 team. He was one of the most athletic people in the Big Ten. But
that's the problem. Again, that's the problem. When they had Tyler Cook was the only nigga that was athletic on the team.
I mean, I've been watching Iowa for a long time, too. For y'all that don't know, my oldest son lives in Iowa, so Iowa has a special place in my heart. That's how me and Big Nate met. And, you know, I made a lot of great relationships out there. But I've seen athletic Iowa teams, you know, going back to my man Doug, he used to show his chest after big dunks, you know, Mike Henderson and Pierre Pierce. I mean, those teams were athletic, too, but again, it didn't propel them to the next level.
Those teams also, what you got to understand is it's a different era of basketball. It's a different era of basketball. You can be less athletic than or different pace and different things of that nature. In this era of basketball, you need the athleticism.
It helps, but you need the shooting. You need the shooting.
Okay,
shooting is
but see, here's the thing about this team too. Okay,
they got
besides Bohannon, who is really putting fear in you from beyond three on this team?
Murray can really shoot it. He can really shoot it.
Who?
Murray can really shoot it. For a guy his size, yeah, he can really shoot it, man.
Okay, Murray's a fair shooter, but that's all you had. You had more shooting last year.
Pat McCaffrey knocked down 3 or 4 today. Iowa hit 19 threes as a team today. They scored 112 points in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, I saw that. That's all fine and great. It won't mean nothing when they lose to who they going to get next round.
They play Rutgers tomorrow.
They got Rutgers tomorrow.
Yeah, they got your boy Ron Harper Jr.
Ron Harper Jr. gonna put a foot all in their ass.
I was one of the hottest teams in the country, man. You score 112 points. I'm pretty sure
they
Rutgers
just lost the game before this one.
I understand, but I'm pretty sure the Rutgers coach is staying up late at night wondering what the hell does he do. They lost to Illinois, by the way, on senior day. There's no shame in that. Illinois is going to be a top 4 seed. There's no shame. They lost on the road, close game. They had a chance to tie the game, and Chris Murray just missed a shot. So I mean, there's no shame in it.
What other conference tournament are you interested in checking out? What other tournament intrigues you the most?
I thought the ACC was interesting. You know, you see Buddy Boeheim punch a guy blatantly on camera, and the ACC did the right thing and suspended him. You know, so I thought that was interesting, the way that Boeheim tried to answer in the media. He's like, oh, he didn't punch him. He just was turning and inadvertent contact, and he would never do that. And then the ACC was like, yeah, we reviewed the video. He blatantly punched the guy. He's suspended. You know what I mean? So I think the ACC is interesting because you obviously have Coach K's Farewell World Tour, right? You know, and so you want to see Coach K had this – to me, Coach K had 2 shifts in his career that will define him. He went from being a systematic, predominantly Caucasian team to all of a sudden now he wanted to recruit less robotic and more ethnic backgrounds to be politically correct was the first one. And then he saw that Chase Calipari a little bit. So then he started recruiting younger. Because remember, Duke's whole thing was to stay old and be old, right? Then he started recruiting these ones and dones. But it hasn't always worked out, right? You go back to Jabari Parker against Mercer in the first round. You know what I mean? Like the young kids were getting exposed. You go back to Jalen Johnson and some guys last year, and they just quit on Coach K. And I think that's when Coach K realized, you know what, I'm getting a little too old to do this. You know, I can't, you know, I'm relying on freshmen, which is something I never used to do, you know, throughout my 30-year career. And now they're letting me down. Even when they finish the season, like Jabari did, we're coming up short. And I think he just saw the writing on the wall. Like you said, the game is different. The mindset is different of today's average athlete. And I think he wants out. So I want to see do Payalo, do Williams, do Roach, and do all these guys, do Wendell Moore, do they send him off the right way? You know what I mean? Like they've requested to be in Chicago to play, which to me is just crazy, but whatever. Okay, cool. So you got to assume the committee is going to honor that request. Nothing is more headline grabbing than Duke goes out there and shits the bed in Chicago after they requested to be there in that region with a bunch of young kids. And so I want to see, do these kids, do they remember Duke when it was Hurley and Leitner, or do they just remember Duke when it started, with Okafor and Tyus Jones, right? Like where for these kids are on the team now, where does Duke start in their mind? You know what I mean? Where does that tradition start? And so I want to see how hard they play in these one and done type tournaments. That's intriguing to me.
Anybody else in the ACC interest you as far as a tournament team?
I thought the league was really down this year, to be honest with you. I thought the league was really down. When you see my man Leonard Hamilton struggling, you know what I mean, to put together a winning season, it's like, yeah, this league is down. Virginia's, just not a Virginia type team. They've fallen so far from the glory after winning the national championship. I'm going to go on record and say this: Virginia's drop from prominence will be just like Tom Izzo's at Michigan State. Remember, he had the hottest thing smoking when he won the tournament, was going to Final Fours, and now, you look at last year in a playing game, it gets beat. I mean, it just can't get back there. And I think that when you play one side of the ball, when you only can box yourself in recruiting-wise, only can recruit one type of kid, it really is going to hamper you. It really is going to hamper you because I've told you this multiple times from my experience with coaching. Today's kid, you have to really instill confidence in him or her. If you are taking confidence or if you are causing, like some coaches berate people, right? And Tony Bennett doesn't do that by all means. Like Tom Izzo does berate, but he doesn't, you know what I mean? And Tony Bennett is more of, he questions what you do. That makes the kid question themselves, and therefore the confidence is still the same. It's broken. It's shaken. Mm-hmm. And with today's kid, when their confidence is either gone or broken or shaken, that kid ain't going to do shit. He's just not going to do shit.
Is it time for Boeheim to hang it up?
I think it's time for Boeheim and Izzo both to hang it up. I think that let me give Fran McCaffrey his kudos. Fran McCaffrey got 3 kids on the team. Ain't none of them a star. He never tried to make none of them a star. He finally took Connor out the lineup, and he realized that was the right thing to do. Boeheim has made Buddy and the other one, I think his name is Jimmy, the only 2 people who scored a ball on their team were the 2 Boeheims. That's why they struggle to win games, because the zone doesn't work because they can't defend, first of all. And then the only 2 people who have the green light on the team are the 2 Boeheims. And so when you do that, you're causing a divide in your team already, right? Because the kids know what's going on. The kids see it. If the kids feel like, okay, if I take this shot and don't make it, he's going to be on my head. But when Buddy or Jimmy takes the same shot and they don't make it, he's clapping words of encouragement. The kids see that real quick. These kids ain't dumb. And that just causes a divide in your team, and you can't get the most out of kids, or kids are hitting the portal and leaving on you like Kadar Richmond did. And I just think that, Izzo and Boeheim are both at the point where they need to say, hey, we're old school guys. We won a lot of games. We're Hall of Fame coaches. We've had great careers, but it's time to go do something else, man, because we're not able to recruit the type of kid we need to make an impact because we can't relate to that kid, or the kids we do get here, we can't get the most out of them anymore. So it's just time to usher it over to a new era. I think if I'm Syracuse, let me just say this real quick. If I'm Syracuse, I'm ecstatic that I own a loss, because I would be calling Pitino's agent to gauge his interest. He's in New York, in the New York City area. Hughes ain't that far. I would be saying, what do you need? What do you want? Because the transition from Boeheim to Pitino will have you right in the national headlines, first of all, just on his name alone. His brand of basketball is a winning brand. He's proven a Hall of Fame dude. So you won't have that drop-off that you could have if you promote Boeheim's, assistant and it doesn't work out. I think that's the smartest thing Syracuse could do right now, is get their AD on the phone with Pitino's agent, and do not let that man hang up until you are able to get that man flown to Syracuse and get a deal signed. And if Boeheim doesn't like it, so what? As an AD, my allegiance is to the university first and foremost, to my brand.
Right. Before we transition, do you have a favorite going into the tournament?
I don't. I got a couple teams that I like. I like Iowa because of what I said on the offensive end, but I really like Texas Tech because I think they're the best defensive team in the country.
No, there's 2 things there, and this will be the last thing, because you say Iowa. Do you like Iowa as a Sweet 16 team, or do you like Iowa as a potential team that can win it all? I think that's two different neighborhoods.
That's a little that would be a hell of a jump for a team that's never been in the Sweet 16 in a long time to go win it all. I don't like them to win it all, but I like them to. The beauty about the tournament is the upsets. And if they upset the right person and clear the way for someone else, you know what I mean? Potentially, now all of a sudden things get dicey, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I really would be intrigued to see an Iowa Gonzaga game because as good as Drew Timmy's been, as good as Chet Holmgren is supposed to be, neither one of them are stopping Keegan Murray. And I really think that would be an intriguing game. I think that would be an intriguing game. And they both want to play at that pace. They both want to shoot three. They both want to get up and down. I'm gonna ride with Murray. I'm gonna ride with Big Dog. I'm gonna ride with Murray. I'm gonna ride with Murray in this situation.
All right, it's time to talk about something. It's time to talk about something. NFL. Last time we talked NFL, there had been some big quarterback news. A couple quarterbacks that changed teams, and then some time passed, and we get another quarterback that changes teams. The Colts decided they were going to trade Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders now. The Washington Commanders.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
What was it for? A second and third?
The guy has his best statistical career. He throws 27 touchdowns and 7 picks, which for him is just crazy. And they gave him away. They just gave him away.
What the problem is? You had a guy. If I'm lining up, two blank stat, side by side, and so you got a guy that threw for 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks, completed 63% of his passes. You would say that guy had a pretty damn good year.
Absolutely.
But for whatever reason in Indianapolis, which you gave up prospects to get him, that was not enough for you. Jim Irsay supposedly was pissed off because they lost to damn Jacksonville at the end of the year, and you blamed it on Wentz. And I just think it's like, for as many teams that don't have a quarterback or haven't had quarterbacks, and you have one, and he's not old, I guess Carson Wentz is probably, 27, 28 maybe?
Yep.
And you're just passing him around. I think he gets a bad rap, and I think for that team who has a very good defensive front, they have good wide receivers. They're gonna be able to compete. They're competing for the division last year.
Yeah, they've competed with less. I think the biggest thing about Carson Wentz that when I watch him, and I'm assuming that when you give up what you gave up to get him, you hire the coach that you thought, would get the most out of him. Like, they made it as comfortable for him as they could. And I'll say it again. Dude throws 27 TDs and only has 7 picks. That 7 picks has got to be a season low for him because he was a turnover machine. And you got rid of him after one season into that. You didn't want to try to work some things out. That tells me, just like the fan, you question his heart. Like, when I watch him play, I question his heart. I question, does he really want this? Does he really truly live this? And I think, the Colts are a great brand, right? Going back to the Manny days and how they lived on and built on defense, and they got a great running game with Taylor. So you trade your starting quarterback, and now you're in this realm of, once again, like they were a year ago, who the hell are we going to have at quarterback? And he had like I said, pretty good year again. He's making a lot of money. That tells me you question his heart. And when I watch him play, that's my knock on him. It's like, how much does he really want this? You know what I mean? He lost his spot in Philly to, at that time, Hurts, who was a rookie that was unproven. People didn't think he could play. And it's like, man, how bad does he really want this? You know what I mean? Like, what is his toughness?
I think, too, that it's like, okay, who are you going to get that's going to play better? I can understand you can question his heart. But if I go and get a far lesser talent, went hard, is that going to make the difference of him? Like what the best guy on the market right now, they're talking like it's like Trubisky. And I've been down that road, and whether he's talented, especially I think if you have a coach who's going to cater to his skill set. But can he be better for you than what Carson? Like I said, that's a 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio that he had this year.
Right.
So it's like, I'm just I'm a little lost at that one. That one didn't quite make sense to me. And they've got a great offensive line. They had a lot of guys hurt last year. Um, they could use another receiver or two in there besides Pittman. T.Y. Hilton is old and he's not the same. And I think they could use some upgrades there. But I mean, everything else I think is good in the team. Now they did lose a lot of their coaching staff. Um, defensive coordinator, a lot of the defensive coaches. I want to say they even lost maybe somebody on the offense too. They lost a lot of coaching this year, so it's gonna be interesting to see what route they take to replace him. And then, like I said, I think Washington should be happy with what they got because he's back in that division which he's familiar with, and I would say just offhand he's the second best quarterback in the division behind that. And that can be debatable. So we don't know, especially if the Cowboys are getting rid of Amari like that. I think Amari is what makes Dak a better quarterback. So, he doesn't have him. We'll see how that goes. But he might be able to contest for the best quarterback in that.
I mean, Washington definitely should feel really happy. But I think the coach should too. I mean, they got a great running game. They got a great defense. They got tradition. I would expect, not saying he's going to Indianapolis, but I would expect that Teddy Bridgewater would be on the move. I don't think the Denver would want to keep him at the money that he makes to be the backup to Russell. You know what I mean? So I would expect that he, being a competitor he is, would want to have a chance to start somewhere. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's still yet to play itself out. And I think the coach is better for this move. Like I said, I've never truly, really understood if Carson was, if he was that guy. I mean, let's not forget he didn't play Power 5 football, right? He came from the North Dakota State, I believe, right? And he put up some numbers. Don't get me wrong, but we always have been like, well, we always kind of looked at everything he's done with the asterisk because he didn't play at a traditional Power 5 school like some of the other QBs did. We've always done that, and so to try to ignore that now would be foolish. I mean, like I said, you talk about a guy winning a Super Bowl and having a fall from glory. He certainly had that. He certainly had that decline quick.
The context of that is kind of skewed too because of being hurt and the whole Foles thing.
Right.
I think it was just really time for him to get up out of Philly. Not necessarily that. I don't necessarily think that they necessarily thought that Jalen Hurts was a better quarterback, but I just think everything considered, they was just like, okay, it's just time for us to move on from him. So,
right.
Another big time deal that went down today that I'm personally not too happy about. The damn Bears trade Khalil Mack to the Chargers for a second round pick in this year's draft and a 6th round pick in next year's draft. Khalil Mack is
ecstatic about that.
I'm sure you are.
Not because of the Lions thing. I just don't think he played as hard as he did when he got to Chicago. I don't think he wanted to be there. I think he still felt blindsided by Gruden. And
here's the thing.
Herbert. I love Herbert, and I love the fact that the Chargers are trying to build and contend on their defense. I just like good football.
For a Chargers standpoint, yeah, you should be ecstatic. You give up that. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a Bears fan. Khalil Mack, I honestly believe wanted to be there. He played like he wanted to be there. He has the greatest defensive game in a half of football that I've ever seen, which was his first game as a Chicago Bear. And he played through a lot of injuries. And this past year, he had 6 sacks in 7 games, and then he went out for the rest of the year, and that was it. So he was killing shit this year. And I was really hoping to see him and Robert Quinn together healthy under this new defensive scheme. I get we have a new general manager who, obviously is going to try to make an impact. So now it seems to me that it's just, I would imagine they probably try to trade Robert Quinn too, and if they can get rid of Eddie Jackson, they'll probably try to do that too. We only had 5 picks in the draft coming up, so now they have 6. So the thing that I don't like about it is you traded him, and he is going to count towards $24 million of our cap. He is going to be the biggest dead cap hit in the history of NFL for a non-quarterback. By trading him, we only cleared up $6 million this year in cap space. Now, the positive thing is the Chargers are going to take the remaining $64 million of his deal. So after this year, you're free of all his money, which I guess depending on how you view it can be a positive. But then, I think whereas if we had a team who, in my opinion, it wasn't necessarily that we needed to rebuild, it was just retool and you could come out and be competitive next year with a good defense. Now it's looking like we're completely in rebuild mode and trying to get what they can to really go out, I'm guessing, in 2023 and be competitive with free agents, with the cap room and all of that. So I was not pleased to hear, especially I didn't think we got nearly enough where Von Miller went for a second and a third and all that. We get a second and a 6. It just is fucking sick to my stomach.
And he's been hurt, man. So, the value in the market, he's not a quarterback. So, things just, you capitalized at one point and gave up a lot and it just didn't work. And like I said, I love Herbert. I think the AFC West is the best division in football. So put all the good players in that division. Let's see where the chips fall. Put all the greats in that division. Why not?
It's nuts. They're gonna have Bosa and Khalil Mack on the same defensive line.
Yeah, and then you got hopefully a healthy Derwin James in the backfield lurking, coming in the box, making hard hits, helping to stop the run. So I mean, and then you got Herbert when he gets on the offensive end, just making the magic that he does. I mean, what a time! What a time to be an AFC West fan.
Also saw that I don't know if we talked about it, but Bobby Wagner released
I didn't see that.
by the Seahawks.
I didn't see that.
Had a career high in tackles last year, and your defense is awful. And you say, hey, how do we fix that? We get rid of our best defensive player.
Yeah, he was a Russell Wilson. They were close, and so he didn't want to really partake on who this new unknown quarterback could or could not be. So they decided, you know what, we're going to let you have the out. You're either with us or you're with Russ. He decided he wanted the out, so they're letting him out. They're doing right by the player. They're doing right by the player.
Tyrann Mathieu also will test free agency.
Saw that. I like Tyrann Mathieu a lot. I mean, you talk about heart, man, does he have it. But he's been on a decline.
I like Tyrann Mathieu as well. Anything else you want to touch in on the NFL?
Tomorrow's Friday, so Watson's case goes to the grand jury tomorrow. So we'll hopefully Monday or Tuesday we'll have some. Are we going forward criminally? Are we staying in the civil realm? What are we doing here, right? We'll have some more clarity hopefully by Monday or Tuesday once grand jury stuff finishes up on which direction this thing is going to go in.
And Sunday is the tampering period for free agency. So Sunday, I believe, is when you can really start to talk to guys, as far as contracts for the upcoming year. So
right,
it's gonna be interesting next 2-3 days in the NFL to see, what happens and who else gets released and where they go. Because I mean, when you got guys like Tyrann Mathieu and Bobby Wagner that are available, it can change the dynamic a little bit of a prospective defense.
For sure.
That can mean that can do a lot. So I'm interested to see what happens. NBA tonight we have the much awaited Brooklyn versus Philly game. Unfortunately, Ben Simmons was in Philly, but not to play. I heard when he went and took the floor for pregame shoot around. As expected, he was showered with booze.
Not playing in this game. He is their best
They
player.
said
He's been out the last 2 games.
they said the only reason he came to Philly is because he's got that suit that he's about to file against the team.
Yeah, so he wants to, I guess, he wants to collect the booze so he can use it as evidence. See how they treat me, poor me, blah, blah, blah. This whole, I don't want to touch on Ben Simmons. Let's just talk on the other players that are on the court playing the game of basketball. Let's just leave his antics off.
Kyrie will play tonight as it's in Philly. KD is back. They lost a tough one the other night to Boston, who, how does Jason Tatum look? But that's another discussion. But how do you expect, is this the game Brooklyn needs to get back on track where they come out, make a statement, come out there and beat a hot Philly team? I don't think Philly's lost since acquiring James Harden.
Right.
Come out, beat this hot team, and really set a precedent for the rest of the season. Because right now, if the season ended, they would be the 8th seed, so they would be in the play-in. But can they make some noise and maybe get up to that 6th seed, top 5 with how many games they have left, and really send a message to the rest of the league.
You got KD and Kyrie. I'm going to take those guys over Harden and Embiid any day, all day. Period. So I think they're better players. I think both of them are better than both those guys. I know Embiid is having a phenomenal season, but postseason basketball is all about guard play, and I'd rather be with it than without it. So I think that Brooklyn will figure it out. I think that there's some challenges not knowing if or when Kyrie will be able to play any home games in the playoffs. But I think that puts pressure on all home teams because he's playing, and you're gonna have to try to win those games. Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like you can't give up your home court.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you got to win those games, and I just think that KD and Kyrie are, two of the best in the game, and so I have faith that they'll figure it out. Not so sure about Harden. Talk about heart and want to. I don't know, and then I don't trust Doc Rivers as a coach, and unfortunately, I know it doesn't say much. He's going against Steve Nash in his second year, but it actually says a lot. Think about how many years Doc has been in coaching, and he has a title, and I still trust him a hair slightly less than I would Steve Nash, just because I never seen Steve Nash blow shit and fuck shit up like I have Doc multiple times. He just doesn't have the experience, and that's one thing. But to blow stuff multiple times, multiple places, I mean, my goodness, that's just in your nature. That's just who you are. So I don't really know if the Philly thing pans out or works out. It seemed like Daryl Morey, ever since he took that job, was determined to get Harden there by any means necessary. It seems like this has been a 2-year process. And anything that you got to work that hard for in life, Grandma always told me, probably not coming through. Probably not coming through. Probably not even good for you. Nothing good happens after 11 o'clock. Take your ass to bed. Get inside.
Last night, we had the Lakers take up on the Houston Rockets. Houston has, I want to say, the second worst record in the league.
Yeah, they're down there with Detroit for sure.
And they put up 149 points?
Yeah.
After overtime against the Lakers to beat them in overtime.
Right.
LeBron did play. Westbrook did play. Malik Monk did play. LeBron did post a triple-double. But he did shoot the ball poorly. I want to say he went 1 for 9 from 3. Also, at the end of the game, towards the end of regulation, he had a play where he drove to the basket, and it appears that he had a very good opportunity to and make a game-winning layup, but he instead chose to make the basketball play and kick it out to Melo for a jump shot, which he then missed, and they went into overtime and then lost the game. So, A, what do you make of all this? And B, like I said, I think I might have asked you before, and I understand a lot of people say, well, it's LeBron, they got a shot. And I've been the same way, but this is the first time I think I can honestly say that I don't think it matters that he's on that team. If they happen to get into that play-in, they might win the play-in game, but if they go up against a 1 or 2 seed, which is what they would have to go against, with Anthony Davis or no Anthony Davis, I think this team is that doomed that they can't get out the first round if they get there.
I agree. They're shot. I don't think LeBron even wants to be there anymore because he can't call the shots anymore, right? He can't get his way. He wanted to abandon Westbrook at the trade deadline and go get John Wall. And when Pelinka said, no, I'm not going to let you play GM anymore, you forced my hand into getting Westbrook, so you're going to have to live with him. I think, when LeBron came out and said what he said about his son and was giving the praise to President OKC, I think he told you that I'm out of here. It's just a matter of time. So I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares to go to playoffs or not, to be honest with you. I think he's really working on this next situation for him and Bronny. I think that's where his focus and mindset is at this point. And he's earned that right. If he feels like, yeah, I did this, I did that, they got other players on the team. I scored 56 the other night. If they're not going to help me out and bring some energy and help me out, then so be it. And I think that's where he is. I think you're going to see LeBron really focus on his son's future and kind of put his, personal accolades and personal things to the side and start lining stuff up for Bronny. I don't think LeBron cares. I don't think they win. I don't even think they win the play-in game. I just don't think they're hungry enough. And I don't know who it is. We talked about confidence with a college kid, but somebody has taken Westbrook's confidence. Like, it's gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's gone. So I mean, I don't think it matters who they play in the play-in game. I would take Portland Anthony Simmons in the play-in game just because I know they're hungry. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think LA's hungry. I think they want to get this season over as quick as they can and start getting pieces out of LA. You know what I mean? I think that's what Pelinka wants to have happen.
Yeah, they're. I said it's at a point, like you said. I don't know what to think of LeBron as far as his attitude towards the organization, towards the team, wanting to be there. But I find it interesting. The Lakers are now in a situation where it's like, okay, how do we approach with LeBron? Do we, with giving our cap in our roster, what I'm saying, obviously if we don't appease to him, he's gonna be pissed, and then if he mails it in, then we're fucked, and if we don't appease to him, we're fucked. So do we keep him here? Do we ship him out? What do we do? And I think that's going to be the interesting thing in the offseason. Is like, okay, how do they approach this? Can they find a team to take Westbrook? And then when you do find a team to take Westbrook, you're going to be taking back that much in salary more than likely. You know what I'm saying? Unless, because you don't have the picks and other things to attach to Westbrook to entice a team who has the cap space to take him on. So I'm curious to see what they do this summer and what LeBron's stance is going to be on how they do it. That's really interesting to me.
Agree.
Season awards right now. We're close to the end of the year. Who would be your MVP?
I would give it to Embiid. I mean, he played all season without Simmons. He didn't really have a second co-star. I mean, he just now is getting Harden. So just on that fact alone, I think that he should get that because he didn't have a co-star for 75% of the season. And I think that if you were to take Drew Holiday away from Giannis, if you know what I mean, like he is, they would be completely different. So he didn't have a co-star. And he had to wait on Philly to make the move.
Would you be mad if they gave it back to Joe?
No, not at all. Not at all. I wouldn't be.
Because I think the numbers might even suggest that he
should win it. I mean, he's had
Considering
Terrible
that he
season.
hasn't, I mean, you talk about
He
who he
has no
played
Murray
with.
again. So yeah, he has no Murray again. He's playing with the backup of
No,
Monty Morris and a
no,
bunch of other guys.
no Porter.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
the
mean,
second best
so
player on that team all year has probably been Aaron Gordon.
yeah, yeah. I
You know,
wouldn't
Aaron
be mad if he
Gordon,
got it.
Will Barton. You know, and they're right there in the fifth in the West. You know,
Be
so
Embiid though. I do think it
I
should be Embiid. All the controversy
I
that's
would
gone on
probably
in Philly
give it to
that he's
Embiid
had to
too.
play through. Like Jokic gets to just play freely every night, right? There's no controversy.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, we got to get Jamal Murray out of here. It's just like, yeah, he's hurt. We got to get him healthy. But there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of eyes on Philly. They've been in the media for the wrong reasons. I mean, Ben Simmons, who's the Robin to that team, essentially quit on that team. So I mean, that's just a lot of stuff to deal with. He's
I
battled through
agree.
injuries and stayed healthy. I think just on those merits alone, you'd have to say, you know what, man, you really earned this one this year. You really went out and earned this one this year. That's all I'm saying. They're getting blown out right now to the Nets, but it's not his fault. He's handling his business. Harden's just doing Harden. He's in strip clubs late at night blowing money, and when it's time to play games, he's non-existent.
Rookie of the year. Who you like?
Now, that's an intriguing one. That is definitely intriguing. I don't know who I like there, to be honest with you. And here's why. I think that similar to last year, you have to decide what kid gets his team to the playoffs, even if that's a play-in situation. Because I got 3 guys that I really like, but it's like, well, I got 4 guys actually. So you could go Scotty Barnes, you could go Franz Wagner, you could go Mobley, and you could go Cade Cunningham, because Cade Cunningham is really. I watched the Bulls game the other night, and he couldn't do much with DeRozan, but the Bulls couldn't do much with him either. You know what I mean? Like, he's a couple seasons away from really being that guy in the East as a 6'8" point guard type guy. You know what I mean? Like, he really is
Right.
coming to his own. But I don't think they're going to be in a play-in, so I would take him out of it. Definitely don't see Franz Wagner in Orlando Magic.
No.
Franz Wagner statistically, I think, would be the guy. You know what I mean? Because from start to finish, he really hit the NBA running. But damn, man, Scotty Barnes is a fucking winner. He is a winner. Like, that dude is a 6'8" Draymond Green with some offensive skill. Like, he is a winner, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's scary to think that if Toronto can get their shit together and either get rid of Powell or get him on board, wow, what they could be in 2 years. You know what I mean? Because he just does everything at a high level. He has a smile on his face the whole time. You can tell he loves the game. And those kids are easy to root for, man. Those kids are easy to root for. I trust Majuri Ajoli 100% that he'll figure out the roster situation. And I would say for me, I guess based on playoffs, you'd have to give it to Mobley, just because I do think Cleveland obviously will be in the playoffs. But the problem with Mobley is Darius Garland took another step. So it's like, you see what I'm saying? Like, he's
Can't
not
completely
like,
contribute everything.
exactly. When Garland's going for 41 and 13 dimes, it's like, only had 15. It's like, you know what I mean? It gets lost in the shuffle. You know what I mean? Any game that
And you had Jared Allen, who was an All-Star this year.
you're right. So it's like he's surrounded by 2 All-Stars, and those are just the
but
facts.
I
Those aren't
but I
opinions.
but I also think that's a good point. And where you have Toronto, who could theoretically, since Jared Allen is now gone for a while, Toronto could maybe catch Cleveland. Where if
Good.
Toronto catches Cleveland, I saw where Scotty Barnes and Mobley more or less have the same numbers.
They
They
do.
pretty much
They
are
do.
averaging the same thing. Now, the one thing that I'll say about Mobley that you can't discredit is he affects both sides of the ball so well. Where the first 2 months of the season, even though I think Barnes has been really good all year, it was definitive that Mobley was the guy. And then then Cade started to catch his stride, and then you had other guys. Giddy over the last 2 months has been
Really good.
unbelievable,
Really good. Yeah.
unbelievable. But their team sucks. You've had Jalen Suggs who started to play better. You have a guy like Io who, as a second round pick, what was expected of him to how he's played, has played really well, and he's contributed to winning, but he doesn't have the stat line to say he deserves to be there over those guys. Like I said, I think your first team rookie team is going to be locked between. It's going to be Cade, Barnes, Giddey, Mobley,
And Wagner.
and Wagner.
Yeah, I think that
lock.
makes up. Yeah, I think
all
so too.
of them can stop playing the rest of the year, and I think all 5 of them are the lock for your first team.
Agreed.
It's going to come down to, like you said, and I think also what you're going to see is, okay, since Jared Allen is gone, like the other night, Mobley had a game where he had 26, 10, and like 5 steals or something like that, and they won. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to be asked to do more. So how is he going to perform where now he is the legitimate center in that lineup where, you know, you can kind of move Lowry to his traditional 4 and, you know, because he's been playing the 3 all year. You know, they've been playing 3 7-footers in the lineup. So how does he play with that, and how do they do compared to Scotty, you know, being able, because to be fair to Scotty, Van Fleet was an all-star this year, and Pascal Siakam has been balling as well.
Yeah, he finally got out of his head once they got the team back to Toronto and out of Tampa.
And then also Norman Powell's been hooping too. So where Mobley has it around him, so does Barnes.
Right.
So I wouldn't be mad if they're both, you know, in that, you know, 5 and 6 or, you know, 6, you know, 5, 7, whatever, and the numbers are similar. I wouldn't be mad to see a co-rookie of the year again. Like, I think the last time, I'm trying to think the last time, was it Kidd and Hill, or did we have another one since then?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
For some reason, I want to say we've had another co-rookie of the year. But I know definitively that Jason Kidd and Brett Hill split it one year, the year they were rookies. So I wouldn't be mad to see that, because I think both of those guys would be deserving of that. But, you know, those 5 guys that'll be first. Like, Cade played the Bulls last night, and he's tough. He's just tough. He's big, he's strong, he's smooth. His jumper's been coming along.
He has a great feel for the game. Just a great feel for the game.
I'm a big fan of Cade. I think he's gonna be tough, and I think he's gonna be good for a long time. It's just a matter of, you know, and like I said, they got a lot of tough guys on that team around them.
Right.
I just think it's a matter of what they add in the future and what they retain. But I like that roster. I do. I've told you that before. I like the guys that they have on that roster, because regardless of what happens during the night, they got a lot of guys that won't quit.
That's true.
They're gonna play hard until the game is over. Now, like you said, the problem may be is who they got coaching. You know,
100%.
You get him out of there, and then you might I'd like to see the same roster with a different coach, just to see if they respond to a different coach better. You might have a far better team than what you have.
Well, they got to figure out who they're gonna put in the backcourt next to Cade. Right now, it's Corey Joseph, because obviously Killian Hayes just, you know, he just wasn't what they thought they were getting a year ago when they drafted him, and that's fine. But Corey Joseph isn't a long-term answer, so I really want to see what they'll do in the draft, or what they'll do with the pick to entice, because they got to get a proven guy in the backcourt next to Cade, not let Cade be who he is, but someone who knows how to win games, how to close out games, how the Bulls were able to add, you know, DeRozan, who brought that quality to them. You know what I mean? It could help Zach understand, when in doubt, man, this is what it looks like. You know what I mean? Because DeRozan, you know, his last year with Casey in Toronto, you know, won 63 games. So the dude knew how to win games. And so that's something they got to get in the backcourt next to Cade. And they got to figure out the Jeremy Grant situation. Is he staying? Is he going? If he's going, what can you get for him? Because you don't want to just get nothing for him, because the dude has played exceptionally well these last 3 years. So they got some question marks with the roster.
And that draft capital, where, you know, depending on where that lands, who do they take? Who do they put right there? You know,
for sure.
So, to end it off again, betting tips. Who you like?
For your latest picks, go to chalkandchurn.com. We got you covered. We're putting up a couple picks every day. And we've also got our premium picks you can buy for new users for the very first time, a new subscriber. We have a 200% guarantee where you can buy a $30 pick. And if you screenshot your ticket that you put it in, if it loses because the pick comes from us, not only will we give you the 30 that you bought from us, we'll also give you the winnings of what you would have won on that bet that you put in. So new users, go and check us out at chalkandchurn.com. For betting for tomorrow's games, I haven't looked too in depth at them yet. That's something I gotta do. But for today's games, I like Boston College to cover because I thought that they played hard. I thought that they've been playing exceptionally hard on Anthony Grant, and the future is bright for them. And then also for the weirdest reason, like I said earlier, I like the Iowa to cover. They were -7.5. I knew that they were going, just wipe the floor with Northwestern. And so both those games came true tonight. But for my picks for tomorrow, go to chalkandchurn.com and check us out.
All right. Well, everybody, that's a wrap. It's been another episode of the Real Spiel Sports Podcast. Big Nate for Coach Cook Taylor. We're saying goodbye.
Good night, guys.